Trump with some tough words for the media, saying he's been treated unfairly. You may recall he said in January he was going to raise millions of dollars for veterans charities, including $1 million of his own cash. But then there was a lot of scrutiny about what happened to the money. Today he said he raised $5.6 million and that it's all been paid out and that more money is coming. He went on to say he wanted to keep it all private, but that the media just wouldn't let up.
The press should be ashamed of themselves. And on behalf of the vets, the press should be ashamed of themselves. They are calling me and they are furious because I sent people checks of a lot of money, and I'm going to give you the names right now, which is what you want. And instead of being like, thank you very much, Mr. Trump, or Trump did a good job, everyone's saying, who got it, who got it, who got it? And you make me look very bad. I have never received such bad publicity for doing such a good job.
And then Mr. Trump went after Hillary Clinton.
When I raise money for the veterans, and it's a massive amount of money, find out how much Hillary Clinton's given to the veterans. Nothing.
Meanwhile, her campaign is launching a multi-pronged communication effort to blast Trump's record on veterans' causes. So you've got them going back and forth, and it'll be interesting, I'm sure. But today, Trump takes center stage and he answers his critics. How did he do?
I thought he did very well, and this is something I've known for quite a while. When you raise that type of money, there are a couple of things you need to be aware of. Number one, who are you going to give the money to? You just can't give it willy-nilly, because then that will be the story that you gave it to some group that's not doing proper and good things for veterans.
Right.
When you actually get those pledges, you actually have to collect the money, and it does take a little bit of time. And to actually collect all that money and get it out the door in 4 months with zero overhead, let's compare that to the Clinton Foundation and the amount of money that they spend on everything except actually giving the money to the groups that actually need it.
Yeah, so among these groups, the Armed Services, YMCA, $75,000, the Green Beret Foundation, which we're familiar with here in New York. Sure. I've attended some of their groups, $350,000. There was a lengthy list. He went on ahead and read that. He said there's potentially more coming, $5.6 million. So does this quiet the critics?
Of course it does, and there will be more coming, because now everybody is going to come to his defense and actually raise more. So I'm anticipating having another press conference.
Hold on, but I'll tell you what the
they'll say, oh, we raised another $1 million, and we're going to give it to this group.
But the anti-Trump crowd, and you can go onto Twitter right now and see the reaction of those folks, and they're going to say, listen, this is Trump, and this is Trump at his finest. He has orchestrated this entire thing. If you didn't watch that news conference live, we all walked into the green room going, are you watching this? I mean, it was riveting. And he sat there, I don't know for how long, listing off every organization and every dollar amount to which he donated to those organizations. Yeah. It seemed like it went on a very long time.
That's what they wanted.
But this was him, and I'm going to say this is what they're going to say, is he orchestrated this so that it was perfectly timed so that he had the spotlight from the press and the media so that he could advertise all of those donations.
I don't know if
what do you say to that?
I have to respectfully disagree a little bit, because this is something that has been a drumbeat for a couple of months now, and finally it's gotten to a point between the attacks from the Clintons, the media requests over and over and over. It's detracting and distracting from the actual message when he actually goes out and campaigns. Hey, what about the money? What about the money? What about the money? He's going to answer it.
You know, Ebony, one thing that kind of crossed my mind with this today was that part of where Hillary Clinton has taken a punch has been trustworthiness. So if there's any kind of question about his credibility and whether or not you can trust what he says is what he's doing, so on and so forth, this potentially could have been a powder keg for him. He needs the veterans going forward as part of that bench, if you will, that says you can trust this guy.
Yes, absolutely, Harris. What better group of people here in America to have vouching for your credibility than our veterans? My goodness. Also, this was a complete boss move by Trump today. And here's why. To your point, I think it's a very good one. There are going to be skeptics that say this was the grand plan, this was all Trump making it about him. But here's the counter argument. He was asked the question.
Right.
You know, from the Clintons, from media people, you know, there were people even in the Republican Party that were really questioning where was the money going? Was it even raised? So this was his opportunity, and he took it in grand fashion to address those questions. But I do think Fox News' Carl Cameron had a very good point. A question in and of itself is not an attack. And so I don't really understand why Trump was so viscerally frustrated by just the question. That's just
well, because he's taking it personally. He's attacking his credibility when he's dealing with vets. And I know the guy, Al Al Baldessero, who was up there. He's a supporter and friend of mine.
Yeah,
he came all the way from New Hampshire.
He went
and remember,
to the
don't ask, as a
electorate.
defense attorney, don't ask the question if you don't know the answer.
True.
And that's what they do.
Well, okay, there are a couple things going on here. Number one, Donald Trump was the one who talked about how much money he raised.
Right.
I think it's a fair question to say, well, how much money did you raise? He publicly proclaimed it. Yes. Therefore, it was no longer a private matter. Right. You're also talking about the VA. You're talking about an organization so wrought with bureaucracy that people are dying. And that means that other people are forced to step in and raise millions of dollars on behalf of the veterans. So that's a really important way to pivot the story. Yeah. And the biggest loser here, as you know, having been in the Senate, is Bernie Sanders. And Hillary Clinton, if she were smart today, she would be going after him and his leadership as he chaired that committee where the VA completely deteriorated under his watch. And I think that is one of his most vulnerable areas. And I think in that regard, many people are talking about the wrong things.
Yeah, well, both of them are vulnerable.
Amen.
On that issue. I mean, if you just look at the recent history with President Obama and she being aligned with him, those are her words.
Well, she said the VA, actually, there's lines are no problem with her. No lines is not a big deal at the VA. I'm paraphrasing, and that shows how out of touch she is.
It's a frustrating and frustrated issue on that political side of the aisle. I do want to get to just what happened I mean, it was almost a speech at one point because, I mean, he was filibustering some of the answers because he wanted to get some of his platform out too, obviously. Sure. So Donald Trump then got to pivot on the issue of what he would do for veterans who faced medical issues. And you heard his description of what I would call a voucher system.
Yeah, listen, it's a no-brainer. Right now, the VA is not working. They have the ability. They can do it right now. They can outsource, and they choose not to because they want to keep everything in-house. You know, keep all the toys. You should be outsourcing all of the mental health that they can't handle. You should have 24/7 live coverage on that suicide hotline. You should eliminate all the bonuses. You should get rid of a lot of that top-heavy weight that's just picking up a paycheck. There are some angels working in the VA, Harris, but there are also some people that are just picking up a check, and our veterans are getting screwed.
Well, that's in every organization, if you're familiar with government.
Yeah,
and you are, Senator. I know that you are. Can I just do a quick flip side, though? Because we're talking about this having been a good thing for Donald Trump, but it could easily backfire, too, because if he walks out, and you know that there were some critics and some protesters outside, there were groups who were not agreeing with him who were also going to step up to a lectern and talk about this and have a comeback, if you will. He talked about them having gathered outside the Trump Tower. So not everybody is in agreement that this is a good thing.
How do you argue with raising $6 million for Veterans Group? And I can tell you firsthand, because I have done it, I have raised money for Veterans Group and donated to Veterans Group and served in the military for 35 years. To get a check for $50,000, $75,000, $100,000, $1.1 million is huge, especially as you referenced when right now the VA and others are not stepping up and doing their job. You need, Kennedy, to have that backstop.
All right.
And that's what he did, and it's a win-win-win.
All right, a lot going on today. Let's stay